back, and this is another episode of theU.G.L.Y.truth. So today we'll be starting something new, and it's a series called Women in Media. So we're going to discuss different aspects and different roles that women play in media and how that affects the Black community as a whole. And as always, we're coming from the perspective of historical references and literary references, and we're going to give you the whole conscious perspective on each issue that we discuss.
Absolutely. So today, we're going to talk about women in hip-hop. And this is inspired because our university just had a conference called Do You Still Love Her? It was a hip-hop conference, and one of the panel discussions was Black women in hip-hop and their contribution. And the panelists, it was an all-female panel, and there were some points that I didn't necessarily agree with, or I felt didn't get the enough attention. And so that is what led us to have this conversation now, because they were really disassociating themselves from the whole bitches and hoes that is talked about in music. And so we want to explore if we are able to disassociate ourselves as Black women, whether or not we act like that or not. So yeah, that's what today's topic is about.
So we're going to hit three main points: the contribution of women to hip hop, how modern day women are depicted in hip hop, and then what their response is to that depiction of themselves in hip hop culture. So I'm gonna throw it to you.
Okay, so the contribution of women, rappers, video vixens, producers. I actually don't really know about, cause like when you think about it, I'm thinking about like when you say video vixens, like in music videos, you have those girls with no clothes on, shaking their little tails.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also have like Rihanna, Nicki Minaj, and Beyonce, the three, main Black women in media or in music and hip hop right now. And I kind of have mixed feelings because sex sells,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're making money as Black women.
Right.
So how do you feel? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like what's the opinion of them, even though they're making money
Right.
as women? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Because the point that came up in the conference was, do you have a responsibility to your community as a Black person? Like, you're an entertainer, and if you're Black, do you have that added responsibility of depicting a positive image at all times? But I think that that's something that any artist would struggle with, because you have the issue of doing what is profitable and then doing what people think benefits your overall community. And I think though, like, the female rappers way back in the day, like Queen Latifah, she was all for women empowerment. And I was young. I don't even know if I was alive when she first came out, but I was definitely young. And like, I remember U.G.L.Y, and all that type of stuff. And
MC Lyte.
Yeah, MC Lyte. And I really liked her.
Yes.
Because she just was dope and not and she was a woman, but not like hyper feminine, which is what the shift became.
Right.
I think, and then coming from an economic and a historical perspective, you talk about like what that culture used to be like. It was more pro-feminism, and now it's more sexualized. You have to look at who the audience was at that point in history. There were mostly Black people buying Black music, and you have that hip-hop conference and the shift and the push for gangster culture influence in all of American society, and now your audience has shifted. So
Right.
The main purchasers of that Black music, that gangster rap, that music that isn't necessarily having a positive influence on our community, is white people.
Yeah.
So when you look at what sells and who you're selling it to, it's really hard to still feel that responsibility to your community when your community isn't the main market that you're
Right.
attracting.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And is it even really possible to sell music anymore, from the standpoint of positivity all around?
Right.
Like I don't think it's possible, only because you have to consider who, again, like the audience is, and of course they're going to support the opposite. So like I'm just trying, like, I can't think of it right now, but I don't think it's possible because like I said, sex sells, and for Black women, it's who's going to buy music of a woman saying, oh, you're pretty for who you are.
Right. It's like black women don't even want that anymore.
Exactly.
And I think though, as you know, we mentioned Nicki Minaj, and I've seen some interviews of hers after she did Anaconda, and she was like, that was her celebration of black women or bigger women or women in general, and telling them to celebrate themselves. And so I guess it's no longer in an overt like U.G.L.Y way, but it's in a more like embracing the things about you that otherwise might not be celebrated.
I think, but still to some extent, there's a compromise there. Like, okay, we're going to embrace our sexuality. That's fine. Embrace our sexuality. But what about all the other wonderful traits that black women bring to the table? And I think that's what needs to be brought back into the discussion.
I totally agree. Because it's a limited, otherwise if we just... Because I think, and when you talk about sexualization, I think that, because the point that was made in the hip-hop conference was, you know, the use of bitches and hoes. And if, as a black woman, how we felt about that. And so the panelists expressed how they did not associate with those terms because they didn't conduct themselves as what would be deemed bitches or hoes, so they didn't feel like the rapper was talking about them. And I had a serious problem with that.
I think, yeah, I have a problem with that as well. Just because although you don't feel like they're directing those statements at you, they're statements that are directed about, you know, what their interpretation of the black woman is.
Right.
And once again, when you look at who the audience is, if our black men aren't respecting our black woman, then what responsibility does the rest of the world have to respect the black woman? Right. There is none. So that's something really important to look at, like our black women in hip-hop holding our black men accountable for the way that they depict us to the rest of society.
Right. Because, you know, if it's like, if somebody else feels freedom to do it, or if somebody who is associated in the group that you're in feels freedom to do it and expresses it, then it creates license for others to do it. And I just didn't like that they disassociated themselves, because we are all a unit anyway, and when we are looked at from the outside, we're all in one category anyway. It's not like, oh no, those are the hoish black girls. Like, no, we're all black girls.
Exactly.
And so I feel a responsibility, because this, like, other black women are my sisters, like, you know, and not to be all super like, but I do think that way.
Right.
It's like the whole stereotyping thing. It allows the area for stereotyping, because you allow, you know, this group of people, of your own group of people, to stereotype. Why wouldn't they want to stereotype you?
Stereotype.
Right. You just allow it to be supported. Like, okay, then what's the point of trying to stop it anyway? Like, you're supporting it yourself if you're allowing it to happen.
Right. And so I think a level of consciousness is necessary, because yeah, we all get a little ratchet every now and then and get that sort of, and are not always approaching things with the highest level of responsibility or positivity. But it can't be the only thing that you are putting in your system.
Right.
Because that's what comes out.
And I know we're past the holiday season, but bringing back in that principle of ujamaa, cooperative economics in our black community, yes, the money to be made in the music industry is in catering to what the white people want, because those are the people who are giving you their money for this trash that you're putting out. But at the same time, dig deep and find a commitment to your people to produce something of quality that's going to influence and enhance the upbringing of the next generation of our people.
And if you notice, like, there are rappers who do support, you know, the positive part of the community.
Definitely.
But they don't make any money.
Right.
So we need to support them.
Exactly.
Economics.
We're not playing their music on our radio stations. You know, when Ferguson happened and J. Cole, he dropped the track, and he was one of the very few, like, big faces who was a part of those movements. Nobody played his song on the radio. It barely got any mention. And this is even in regards to our black radio stations.
We gotta stop illegally downloading the stuff that needs to be supported. You know, like the stuff that.
So remember, whether it's good,
it's bad,
or it's ugly,
we speak truth.